to discover the meaningful life Jesus brings us. Now, this month, this August, we are going to be doing things just a little bit differently. If you've been to one of our live streams before, you will have seen host buzzing with energy and doing real-time engagement in the comments, doing something that we call Conversation Street. Oh yes, we like live streaming, we like Conversation Street. But for this August, our usual live stream will be taking a little sabbatical. The members of the crowd team, just like many of you, will be taking this time to rest, recover, and recharge with our loved ones. Just as God rested on the seventh day, we believe in the importance of Sabbath, of taking rest, of taking time off to renew our spirits and regain our strength. So during this time, what's going to happen? Well, you'll still see a scheduled video going out each week as usual, what we call the non-live live stream. But instead of our regular real-time hosts, you know, the live thing, we'll be taking a step back. We won't be doing Conversation Street. Mind you, that said, there is a chance we'll be joining you in the comments as each live stream goes on. And to make this period a little bit more special, we've invited four fantastic guest speakers who will take you on a unique journey exploring their favorite psalm each week. Now, these psalms have spoken into their lives and they're excited to share their insights and reflections with you. Now, if this is your first time with us, a huge welcome to you. You can find out more information about Crowd Church on our website at www.crowd.church. So, I hope you're excited. We are looking forward to this time of renewal and hope that the powerful words of the Psalms will bring you peace, comfort, and a little bit of inspiration for your lives. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being part of the Crowd family. We can't wait to reconnect with you live, refreshed and ready to continue on the faith journey together in September. But remember, at Crowd Church, you are always welcome here, and we will see you in the comments. So let's get into the Psalms.
Hello, Crowd friends and family. It's lovely to be back on here with you again. Over this month, we're taking some time to reflect on some Psalms, which I'm very excited about. Now, the book of Psalms is in the Old Testament and is full of songs and poems that express the whole spectrum of human emotions, really, and states of being, from hope to despair, joy to grief, love, hate, confusion, doubt, fear and comfort, desire, worship and exaltation. In particular, these series of writings have been inspiring the creative world for centuries, from Beethoven to William Blake to Bono. And it's also the longest book in the Bible, so when deciding which one to talk on, there's quite a lot to choose from. But today we are going to have a look at Psalm 16. So I am going to read it first, and then I'll just share a few things that stood out to me from it. So here we go. Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. I have no good apart from you. As for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. The sorrows of those who run after another god shall multiply. Their drink offerings of blood I will not pour out, or take their names on my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. You hold my lot. The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, and my whole being rejoices. My flesh also dwells secure. For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, or let your Holy One see corruption. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. I really, really love this psalm, and it stuck out to me a lot recently. I've been using it to just meditate on and kind of speaking out as I've been praying. And there've been verses that have always really stuck out to me and have been a favourite of mine for quite some time. I really love the contentment with which David, talks about the relationship with his Lord, where he says, "The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance." It's beautiful and poetic and such a wonderful reminder, of the inheritance we have in Jesus as believers. So written in the Bible, you'll notice that the psalm starts off described as a miktam of David. And some people have translated this to mean a golden psalm. And I quite like this idea that the content of this psalm, contains something of such high value, of the highest value, that it is to be cherished. There's a biblical commentator called Matthew Henry, who calls it so because it speaks so plainly of Christ and his resurrection, who is the true treasure hidden in the field of the Old Testament. And I love that, because obviously Jesus hasn't come yet at this point in the Bible, and yet there are things written about him that are so clearly about him. And I agree with this guy, Matthew Henry. There's something about this Psalm 16. Every time I read it, it points me to Jesus and the gift of new life that I now have in him because of the work of the cross, which is quite remarkable, really, because, like I've just said, it was written a few hundred years prior to Christ's coming. But it's such a gospel psalm. I see so much of the language of devotion that you would expect to see in a believer today who has encountered the good news of Jesus. So I just wanted to really show you a few examples of this within Psalm 16. So David begins by saying, "Preserve me." And I think they're two words that acknowledge two things. Firstly, that David is flawed. It shows us that, he is not perfect and he knows it. And not just that, but, the imagery of preservation implies that without God, David will rot. He will decay, because that's what happens when something isn't preserved. It rots or it decays. It has an expiration date. And we know this is what David means because 2 lines later, he expounds on it saying, "I have no good apart from you," you being God. David is really aware that essentially he is a sinner. It's actually a line that immediately reminds me of where Paul writes in Romans 3:11-12, "No one is righteous. Together they have become worthless." It's a total acknowledgement from David that by himself, he's not good enough. He can't do it on his own. And more than that, without God, he is not good, full stop. So that's the first thing that I think "preserve me" points out to us. The second thing that saying "preserve me" points to is that David is acknowledging that God is able to preserve him. By praying this, he is putting his faith in God, believing that he can do this thing. And just as Peter writes that God preserved Noah during the flood, in the same way, David knows God is able to save him from himself and from the world around him. And again, he affirms this a couple of lines later by saying, "I say to the Lord, you are my Lord." He is confessing God's lordship over his life. So this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm calling this a gospel psalm, because sin and lordship are two key issues that I think people are wrestling with when they explore Christianity. And David has already shown us what needs to happen in our hearts and minds to become followers of Jesus. The conviction that we need God, that without him we're screwed. And then once acknowledging that God can save us, surrendering control of our lives to him and making him Lord. But there's more. So after this, David suddenly starts talking about the saints in the land. He says, as for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. Another translation calls them the glorious ones. And these people are really what we now call the church. And I love that. I love that David describes them like this, that he delights in them. He loves them. What's interesting to me is that the same thing Peter was just speaking over himself, that I have no good, is also true of the saints. They are also not good enough by themselves. And even though he calls them excellent or glorious, they still have no good apart from God. And yet David delights in them and he loves them. And why is this? Because the saints who were once worthless have had their identity changed. Their excellence or their worth or their glory now comes from God. It is him who has given them value. In other words, they've made God Lord of their lives, which means through the work of Jesus' death and resurrection, they have been preserved and sustained and made new. And David knows this is true of them because that's what's happened to him. Although, of course, he didn't actually know about Jesus then, but I won't go into that now. So I think this verse particularly hits home for me because the church, the saints, can be a difficult place to be in sometimes. They can be difficult people to be around. And it can be difficult to feel like delighting in the saints because people are hard work, and they're difficult to love. I'm difficult to love, but David is showing us that a crucial part of what it means to live a life devoted to God involves loving the people who are also committed to doing the same thing. And like I said, this can be really hard because people are difficult and complex and they don't always react or talk or behave the way we would expect or think they should. Sometimes they cause us a lot of pain. But the joy that comes with seeing someone live their life for Jesus after you've invested time and energy into them, or seeing someone come to faith for the first time is so rewarding. Or perhaps it's actually having people who are so strong and rooted in their faith around you to support you when you are going through a difficult time. Having this community of saints, this church, is so integral to our walks of faith. So when we look at other believers through the glorious and excellent lens through which God now views us, it enables us to see past the imperfections that can often cloud our vision. And we can begin to feel that same sense of delight that David does here. It also reminds me of how Paul in the New Testament describes the church in Thessaloniki. In 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 19 to 20, it says, this is Paul writing, "For what is our hope or joy or crown of boasting before our Lord Jesus at his coming? Is it not you? For you are our glory and joy." And isn't that great? Like, what a wonderful way to speak about the saints. I love how Paul boasts in them. And it makes me want to give as much as I can to those around me. to see more people around me coming to faith. I want to have that same joy and delight in the saints. So, moving on from this, the last thing I just wanted to pick up on from Psalm 16, and then I'll wrap up and tie it together. But the last thing I wanted to pick up on is really this idea of putting God first daily, which I think comes across in this psalm. And for me, it seems to be what verses 5 to 11 are really about, or what they're really kind of describing. This daily, lifelong devotion to God. Verse 7 to 8 says, I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken. I have set the Lord always before me, because, and in the night also my heart instructs me. You know, these are repetitive, continuous actions that David is taking to make sure he is putting God first. He has counted the cost of his faith. And, you know, for those who are half-hearted in their faith, it's easy to think about what their faith costs them. And whilst David doesn't seem to disregard this, he chooses to focus on what reward there is in making the Lord his Lord. Because at this point, I think it's worth noting, David has begun this psalm by saying, preserve me, for in you I take refuge. It's clearly pointing to him being in a difficult situation, going through a hard time. He has come to the Lord and asking God to preserve him. And yet, through that and in that, he is describing this this joy and this delight that he receives from pursuing God in these difficult moments. He knows his God will never abandon him. And he knows that he will experience the fullness of joy, even in these difficult moments. He knows that goodness and mercy will follow him all the days of his life. He is content. He is satisfied. You know, what a wonderful way to describe your state of being. And so really, those were the points that I wanted to pick out from Psalm 16. But I think to take away from that, I would ask you to think about those different points that I've highlighted. So whether it's that feeling or recognition of not being good enough, of not being able to do things by yourself, of needing God, whether it's confessing God as Lord of your life and giving everything up to him, or whether it is to do with the saints and the church and being connected and delighting in the saints, or whether it's this idea of daily devotion and connection with God and how that is a lifelong journey with the richest of rewards. I would love you to be able to reflect on maybe one of those points. Maybe one of those points is is ringing true with you. So I would challenge you to maybe think about that and see what it is that God might be speaking to you through that. Thanks very much for listening, and see you soon.
We hope you found today's exploration of the Psalms insightful and inspiring. Every Psalm has a unique message, a distinct voice that speaks to the heart and to the soul. Now, we would love to hear your thoughts. What did you think about today's Psalm? Feel free, if you haven't done so already, to share your thoughts, your reflections and experiences in the comments below. I really look forward to seeing them. It's always great to learn from each other on our journey of faith. So do get busy in the comments, do share them. Now, if you wish to reach out to us, you can find out more information about us and how to reach us, how to connect with us on the website at www.crowd.church. And don't forget, come September, we're returning to our regular live stream services, resuming the Origins series that explores the roots of the church through the book of Acts. We're like partway through it. We've got a fair bit to go. It's an exciting journey, so do make sure you are part of that by hitting that little bell subscription thing and notification thing if you haven't done so already on YouTube. Now remember, at Crowd Church, everyone, including you, is welcome, and everyone, including you, is valued. No matter where you are on your spiritual journey, there's a place for you here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us today. Until next time, be blessed, stay inspired, and keep exploring the beauty of faith. See you in the comments, and see you back here next week. Bye for now.